Alright, welcome everyone. This particular video is all about using the quadratic formula. So there are quite a few slides, so let's just go ahead and begin. We're just going to jump right into it. Okay, so the first thing you're seeing on your screen is you're basically seeing the quadratic formula. So as you notice, if you have a quadratic formula in standard form, meaning ax squared plus bx plus c, then what you see here, whoops, sorry, they're basically identifying the coefficients, so a, b, and c. So if you have that formula and a is not equal to 0, otherwise it's not quadratic, then you can use the quadratic formula to solve that equation. Now, please keep in mind that while every equation cannot be factored, every quadratic cannot be factored, they can all be solved, and that's where the quadratic formula comes in. So as you notice, it's x equals negative b plus or minus, because you get two answers because it's possible for the graph to cross the x-axis twice. Remember, those are your zeros, your roots, your solutions. Okay, so negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and the entire thing is over 2a. And again, the a, b, and the c all just come from here. So let's just go ahead and jump in and do an example. And so the first thing you're going to see here is that we are basically taking an equation. So the first thing you have to do is you have to set it equal to 0. Because if you go back, you notice that the formula is set equal to 0. So if you have things on both sides, put everything on one side. That's just usually how we go. Okay? And so what you're going to see here is you start off with x squared minus 2x equals 35. You're going to subtract 35 from both sides, which is that's what they're telling you to do. Okay? And then when you do that, you're going to identify the A, B, and the C. So let's just go in and look at that. And I'm just going to go ahead and write on top of this. So what you're going to see is that A is 1, B is negative 2, and C is negative 35. Okay? And so that's the A, B, and C that I'm going to use. So hopefully you take a moment, you jot that down. Now, when you do that, let's go to the next slide. You're going to substitute it in this equation. And again, A was 1, B is negative 2, C is negative 35. What you're doing again is you're pulling off the coefficients. Okay? And so what you're going to do here, and this one's missing this line, but there we go. Okay? And so what they do, you have a negative B, so that means it's the opposite of B. Well, B was a negative 2, so the opposite of negative 2 is a positive 2. There's your plus or minus, your square root. You're squaring a negative number, put it in parentheses to make sure it stays positive. Okay, and so you're going to end up with 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 plus 140 over 2. Let's go to the next slide. And then what you're going to see is you're going to simplify. Now, hopefully you recognize that the 144, square root of 144 is a perfect square. So you get 12. Now, the plus or minus tells me there should be two answers. Okay, so we're going to have x equals 2 plus 12 divided by 2, and x equals 2 minus 12 divided by 2. Notice they separate the solutions. Keep in mind, if you're going to put this in the calculator, one of the things I would hesitate is make sure you put this in parentheses, because if you don't, it's going to follow order of operation, because basically what you entered was 2 plus 12 divided by 2. So it's going to divide, and then it's going to add, which might not be the answers that you want. So that's why the grouping symbols will help you alleviate that problem. Okay, so let's go on. Please keep in mind you can pause or replay anytime you need to. Okay, so now here we have the second one. So again, first thing I recommend everybody do is you identify A, B, and C. So A is 1, B is 1, and C is a negative 30. Again, coefficient, coefficient, and the number. Make sure you're carrying the signs. That's important. Okay. Now moving on to the next one part. Again, oh, sorry. This one actually jumped ahead if I forgot. So let's go ahead and plug that in, and we'll go ahead and do this one. So what you have is you have x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. The whole thing is over 2a. Just a heads up, you need to memorize this. I'm not going to give it to you because this is one everybody should know. Okay, it's very commonly used. So what we're going to have is x equals negative 1 plus or minus 1 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 30. Okay, and then that whole thing is over 2 times 1. So what you're going to have is x is negative 1 plus or minus. You're going to have 1 plus 120, so you're going to have square root of 121. over 2. If you didn't know how to do that, you can literally just plug this in, put it in grouping symbols, and you can get the calculator to do it for you. Now, hopefully you notice that 121 is a perfect square, so you're going to have x equals -1 plus or minus 11 over 2. So you're going to have -1 plus 11, which is 10, divided by 2, so the first one is 5. Now -1 minus 11, so that's -12 divided by 2, which is -6. And those should be your two answers. Okay? Again, please feel free to pause. So again, what I did is I separated this out. Hopefully you've gotten this other part done, so I'm just going to erase because there's not a lot of room to write here. And you should have picked that out already. Okay, so you did -1 plus 11 over 2. That's an 11. And then -1 minus 11 over 2. And that's how I got the two answers there. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Now, here, still same type of thing, okay? But what's going to happen here is we're going to do some decimals, okay? So again, A is 2, B is -2, and C is -5. You're going to substitute into the formula, and then we're going to clean it up. So you end up with 2 plus or minus the square root of 44 over 4, which is 2 plus the square root of 44 over 4, and then 2 minus the square root of 44 over 4. Again, generally we do decimals all the time on this. Occasionally we'll ask you to not do that, but we'll let you know. So you end up with your answers being 2.2 and -1.2. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, same thing here, only what's different is you're going to have to subtract the 4, okay, so that you have it set equal to 0, because that's the primary issue is it has to be set equal to 0. Okay, so let's see if we go to the next one, and there we go. So if you notice, A was 5, B is -8, C is -4. So we identify that. We're going to substitute into the equation. Again, we end up with the 144, so that's a perfect square. So basically it's 8 plus or minus 12 over 10, and you do 8 plus 12 divided by 10, which is 2, and then 8 minus 12 divided by 10, which is a -0.4. So those are your two answers, okay? So honestly, this is probably one of the easiest things we do with quadratics, is just using the quadratic formula. The calculator will help you tremendously with this. Okay, so let's go on. Now, here's the same thing. We actually did this example in class. So you're going to go ahead. A is 5, B is 3, C is -8. And so I'm going to go ahead and let you know, if I remember right when we did this one in class. I'm thinking, is it A? I honestly now am not remembering. I know we did it. Let me see if I can find my notes. Where we did do it. Of course, I'm not going to be able to put my hands on them right now. So let's just double check. And you really only need to do one side. So if A is 5, B is 3, and C is -8. Let's just go ahead and do it, and then we can double check. So A is 5, B is 3, C is -8. So you're going to have x equals -3 plus or minus 3 squared minus 4 times 5 times -8. And the whole thing is over 2 times 5. So x equals -3 plus or minus, you have 9 plus 20 times 8. I just went ahead and took care of the signs. So 9. And literally, guys, you can just plug this into your calculator. So if you did, you just do 3x squared minus 4 times 5 times -8. And you're going to get 169, so this is the square root of 169 over 10. 169, if you didn't know, is a perfect square, so if you hit shift, if you didn't have it on already, and you hit 169 or answer, you're going to get x equals -3 plus or minus 13 over 10. Now, if you want to see what matches is, we're going to do -3 plus 13 and get that answer, which is 10, and then we're going to divide that by 10, and that's a positive. Okay, sorry about that. So that means this answer is here. Keep in mind, that's a test-taking strategy on multiple choice. If you get one of them, you can usually pick it out. You don't have to do the whole thing. And then if you did -3 minus 13 divided by 10, you would get the other one. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Okay, we're going to do this one as well. And I know we did this one. I, again, don't remember the number, so let's do this again. So A is 3, B is -6, and C is 2. So x equals -6, so the opposite of -6, which is +6, plus or minus -6 squared minus 4 times 3 times 2, and the whole thing is over 2 times 3. So x is 6 plus or minus 36 minus 24 over 6. So 6 plus or minus the square root of 12 over 6. So what you're going to do is you're going to take 6 plus square root 12, and then you want to divide that by 6. Mine automatically shifts to, because I'm using a Casio, a newer one, and it automatically shifts to a simplifying radical, so I'm going to use a calculator that'll tell me the decimal equivalent. Let's make sure we got that. Which would be my TI? Let's see. 6 plus second square root of 12. Okay. I actually had that in. And then I want to divide that. Okay, so 9.464. And just in case you're curious, I'm using that Zoom app for math that I mentioned to you guys in class. So to do this. And again, it looks just like it. So it looks like it's 1.577. So basically 1.6. So your answer is going to be D. Okay. Again, that app is free. There's a free version. There's one you can buy to upgrade it, but there's also a free version. So again, just heads up. And that's for TIs. Casio, you don't need them. So okay. So now the next screen, what I wanted you to see is that if you're solving quadratics, there are lots of methods you can use. So this is just a list. This might be something you want to jot in your notes. So factoring, you want to use this when the constant term is 0 or if the factors are easily determined. Not all equations are factorable. I tell you that all the time. Not every equation factors. Okay, if you're graphing, when an approximate solution is sufficient. In other words, you don't need it exact. Okay, you can just kind of ballpark it. You see quadratics used a lot in physics, just a heads up. Okay, using square roots, it's used when an equation can be written in the form x squared equals n. You don't have an x term. That's when you want to use solving using square roots. And then completing the square, which we haven't taught you. I think they do cover that in Algebra 2. Just a little tidbit. That's where they get the quadratic formula from, is you take the standard form of a quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c, and you do completing the square to it. And that's how you get the quadratic formula. Okay? But it's simplest to use when b is even and a is 1. When a is not 1, it's a lot more work. It can be done, it's just a lot more work. Okay? And then the quadratic formula can be used for anything. That's your fall guy. If you can't get it to factor, you're just having trouble graphing, not, something else is not going to work. Quadratic formula works on everything. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, now the next piece we want to talk about is using the discriminant. And so basically what you're doing is we have 3 equations here. And what we're going to do is, if you notice you have that b squared minus 4ac, that's the piece that's underneath the radical in the quadratic formula. So you're going to do that. So you still got to identify your a, b, and c. Okay, then you're going to do the b squared minus 4ac to it. And when you do that to this particular one, you get -16. Okay? When you do it here, you get 0, and when you do it here, you get positive. So what you need to know is you can actually figure out what kind of answers you're going to get, not the answers, just what kind based on doing the discriminant. If that number is negative underneath the radical, it's not going to touch the x-axis, so you're going to get a graph that looks like this, and there are no real solutions. We will be doing a unit on complex and imaginary numbers later. Okay? If you do the discriminant and you get 0, it means it only touches one spot. Okay, so only one real solution. And then if you get the number and it's positive, it's 2 intercepts, meaning there's 2 real solutions. And we're going to do one, so don't panic. I want to show you that. This is like the easy part. Okay, so now what we did is we want to state the value of the discriminant, so I want to know what it is, and then I want to know how many answers there are. Okay, I don't want to know the solve. I don't want you to solve it. I just want to know how many and what kind of answers. So the first thing you're going to do here is you're going to set this equal to 0. So they subtracted 12 from both sides, which is what you want to do. Okay, and then they use the discriminant. So if we go back, notice that A is 3, B is 10, and C is negative 12. Okay, A is 3, B is 10, C is negative 12. So they just take this part of it. So you're going to square 10 minus 4 times 3 times negative 12. When you do that, you get a 244. That's a positive number, which means it's 2 real roots, and I happen to know it's 244. So what I was looking for here, I wanted this answer, and I wanted to know this answer. Okay, that's what you care about. All right. Let's do another one. Okay, so same type of thing. So we're going to do it, and this one we'll actually do because this is actually your last slide. And so A is 1, B is 2, and C is 2. So we're just doing B squared minus 4AC. So we're going to have 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times 2. So you're going to have 4 minus 8. So your answer is a negative 4. Now it's negative, meaning there are no real solutions. Okay, if it were positive, there's 2, and if it's 0, there's 1. Cannot be determined. Yeah, you can determine that. Okay. And guys, this actually takes care of the notes, and so please just make sure you do the practice. And again, feel free to replay this or ask questions when you come to class. Please keep in mind I've posted several sites that will help you if you need a little more clarification, or again, you can just ask. So thank you, and I'll see you on the next video.